So it's been a day since the assassination attempt on Trump, and a lot of things have come out, and I'm going to address a couple of specific things, conspiracies, as well as it being scripted or not, and the idea of this whole spiritual battle that we are in. So if you're a believer and you've been following me, you know that there's context to a lot of things that are happening, and there are big picture, big ticket, right, overarching themes that are happening because God is using this to redeem the time and allow people to come to him. So that's a big important factor. And so we'll talk about those things. And so the first thing I want to mention is that a lot of people are still bringing up the idea of this being staged. It's part of the movie and all this stuff. And especially if you are a Q believer or you are aware of just the whole thing that we are living in, the continuity of government, devolution, whatever you want to call it, and all of this big takedown and all of that. Yes, it's true. It's happening. I've been talking about it. But there's a level of it being sort of organic or chaotic in some sense, and I'm going to address that today. And so this is where a lot of us have been confused about certain things, certain events, especially things that seem like it's impossible to sort of kind of gather the right evidence. I remember talking about the Vegas shooting, and there's a lot of things that were inconsistent and they were trying to censor it. You had everything from helicopters shooting as well as the wrong window being targeted, a botched assassination attempt on Mohammed bin Salman, and that's just one of many examples. But this one, you saw it very clearly in continuity, the straight sort of shot that had happened. And by shot, I mean it in the literal sense, but also just the whole picture as it was being filmed at multiple angles. And so over the course of even the last 24 hours, people have put together a lot of different things. They've taken maps, they've taken the meters between the buildings, they've done all this stuff, and they have concluded that this is an actual real thing. And so in the sense that a real bullet was shot, and I'm not a gun expert, so I'm not going to speculate what the gauge was of the bullet and all that stuff. And I had made some speculations and said what other people were saying at the time from my first reaction video yesterday within the first hour saying, BB gun and all this stuff. And again, I didn't say that was true or not. I'm just saying these were sort of the things that were coming out, as well as the names of certain people. And so I apologize if some of that was taken as fact in terms of what I believe, but this is just the reaction from the first hour when it came out. And so that was that. And as people started to digest it and go through it, the media is saying certain things, other people are saying other things, and we'll see what happens with the shooter, the victims and all that later. But what's clear is the video footage of what happened, right? So Trump, body language experts, many people were analyzing this and saying that this was a legitimate, real reaction. This was him being very good at acting and doing things. And if you take a step back and you think about whether this was sort of a scripted assassination attempt with real bullets, if you were sitting there in a boardroom, a conference room with all of the COG generals and all that, and said, hey, let's try to do a botched assassination attempt and shoot a bullet right past your ear. We have the best marksman in the world. He'll miss, and we'll even sacrifice him. He'll die, right? And it's very clear that some victim was up on the roof and he got killed. All of that footage is there. But if you pitch that as an idea, nobody would buy it because it's too risky, and you would risk actually assassinating President Trump. And so all of the footage, everything that's coming out, it leans to the idea that it is not staged. And by staged, I mean that they made a real assassination attempt look like it was from the bad guys, but they played it out and it just worked out in Trump's favor. The risk is too high for that to go wrong and him to actually be shot in the head, right? And so, and by staged, other people will say, hey, no, it's just a BB gun, or they used AI and all this stuff. But because there's so many people that took footage, raw, organic people in the crowd, they saw it, and they saw it as being a legitimate sort of event that played out. And so they couldn't have used some kind of technology, some AI and all that to make up all this stuff. It's just absolutely crazy because of the amount of footage and different angles and all that. And so I think some people even said that they took pictures with the shutter speed being so high, and maybe even the FPS from some of the cameras, that they caught the actual bullet kind of going through. And so in continuity, if you see some of the footages, he actually starts bleeding at some point, and there's no like blood patch there that explodes like in a Hollywood movie set. So all of these lend to the idea that this was organic, but it's just irrational to think that somebody would green light this from the perspective of, hey, let's make it a fake thing. And I've said before that we know Biden is in a masked state. He's an actor and all this stuff. And so many other things are being played out as a movie, as Q has mentioned. But this is not one of those. And so I'll talk about what that looks like from that, landscape of how you view scripted versus organic. So first, let me go with this video and just reiterate to you how crazy this whole thing was, because it was actually a miracle of God. And so I'll talk about some of the spiritual things here in a second, but this person does a decent job just reiterating the idea that this was actually a crazy miracle. And so let's take a look at this clip.
Pay really close attention to what's about to happen, because if Trump didn't turn his head here, he would no longer be alive.
Thing that said, take a look at what happened.
I am going to show you frame by frame just how lucky Trump got. I don't think anyone understands how close of a call this was. All right, let's figure out exactly when he was shot, the exact frame.
Take a look at what happened.
It's right here, okay? 9 seconds and 4 frames. We are doing 60 frames per second. Now watch this. Let's see when he turns his head, exactly when. He turns his head right here, okay? That is 8 seconds and 51 frames. So if we do some quick math, okay, that is 13 frames divided by 60, and you get about 1/5 of a second. 1/5 of a second saved his life. Now I want to show you this map from where the shooter is, and you can see that by Trump actually turning toward the shooter, that saved his life. Now I'll show you what I mean. So the shooter was aiming at his temple, okay? And he's on the right side. And as Trump turns his head, you can see right before the bullet goes like this. See that? So it's like this, and then Trump turns his head, and it goes like this, right past his ear. So it's coming like this, and then Trump turns, and it goes like this. Now, it gets even more interesting. The shooter was seen on the roof for 5 minutes before he took the shot. Now, if we watch exactly 18 seconds before the shot and count how many times Trump turns his head.
And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
It's 8 times. Now that's about once every 2 seconds. So he was lining up the shot, and Trump turning to look at the projector actually saved his life.
All right, so you can see the point here in terms of it being an actual miracle of God, and that the angelic help was with him that day. And so I'm sitting here just reflecting, shocked at the very idea that this whole thing, this is literally a sovereign, gracious act of God. And I know people have talked about certain prophecies and other people coming out. There's, I think, a guy who 3 months ago predicted exactly this thing, that God gave him a prophetic word about it. Other people talking about just the assassination attempts in general, trying to take his life, and just over the years, so many other words like that. But the idea that if you don't look at this, again, we've already established that this is very organic. This is a real assassination attempt on his life. Even the media is reporting that. Nobody's questioning it being, and by nobody, I mean the establishment or people that are out there are questioning it as it being some kind of stage setup or conspiracy. It's an actual attempt. Somebody, and again, there could be some cover-ups. There could be people with MK Ultra being told to do this and that. There could have been, wackos. People are blaming this on some, deranged Republican, and just so many things are out there. But the fact is, this event is actually real. And to not write this off as a God, divine, sovereign miracle of God, then I have no words, because it's absolutely crazy to me that he could have died. He could have died. He could have been assassinated. But he was spared because, again, as I've said before, many of us have been repeating this. God is using Trump for this time. And if he wanted to, he could do it. He could just wipe him off if he wanted to. I was reminded of the book of Job. His family, his daughters and sons, they were all taken away. His sheep, everything was taken away. God could literally take away like that. But he's showing many of us, Trump as well. And again, other people have even prophesied that he's going to be even more spiritual, in the sense of giving glory and credit and honor to God. And he even did that today as he was reflecting on this time. And the fact that he is responding in such a heroic, vigilant way. And people even think that how could somebody like that not be shocked and go into a state of, terror and all that stuff after such an incident, and that being a crux to question whether it was staged or not. You got to remember that not everybody is a normal person. And by normal, I mean, they're going to mourn and be, paralyzed for 2-3 months and they just can't handle it. They're not like Trump and many others. And I'm even like that too, where if there's something shocking and crazy that happens, I just want to go about my next day and say, hey, you know what? I want to live my life. I don't want to take 2 weeks to be depressed and let it throw off my rhythm, right? Same thing happens in social media. If bad comments, whatever, you're not going to cry about it. The same thing happens with Trump. It doesn't matter. He doesn't care. He doesn't give whatever 2 cents about what other people say and how the image looks or what happened to him. He even said that I think he was going to delay his trip to Milwaukee to the convention like 2 days, but I think he tweeted or posted today that he's going to leave at like 2-3 p.m. and he's going to just continue on. He's not going to let that rattle him. And he even supposedly went to exercise at his golf course today, which sounds crazy, like all of that being reasons for it to be conspiracy, but it's not, because Trump is a different man. He's resilient, he's strong, and he wants to continue moving forward and fighting. And even the idea when he was shot at, he raised his hand up and I think it was mouthing fight. All of that indicates that he is a different breed of a fighter, of a leader who wants to fight for the people. If this was Biden, and by Biden I mean this Biden, he would have cowered, right? And so again, I'm saying this because let's look at this for what it is. It was a miracle. It was shown. If you see it in the spiritual sense, you know that, wow, God is really protecting and sparing and giving grace and mercy, love to this man. And we have to pray over this because this time is a very difficult time. So this is where I want to move into this idea of scripted versus organic. I've talked about this before, but this whole operation that we are in with this movie that we're watching, if you want to talk about Q and this conspiracy, whatever, the white hats, the military, all that stuff, and the idea that we are under devolution because the election was stolen, Trump is still the commander-in-chief, and he instituted some sort of devolution where the government devolved to military leaders or all this stuff, or that whatever the peds are saying, whatever it is. Again, I'm not saying that that's exactly what it is, but something happened after the 2020 election, and we are living in this sort of stasis, this pause, as Trump likes to say. And again, you can read up on what this means. A lot of people talk about it. They've even written books about it, like Derek Johnson, many others. But however you want to see this, people are trying to interpret a lot of the events that come up over the course of this time, because people, the bad guys, have taken deals, the white hats are in control, there are people in masks, there are actors, and they're all playing this out. And so to some degree, a lot of things are scripted or even hybrid, but you got to remember that some things are very organic, right? 24/7, right? There's 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. You can't have everything just be completely scripted, like say this, do that. You can do that for big things, but not everything. And so if you look at it, everything is within God's sovereignty. And so this is this dotted line. Everything is within God's sovereignty. He sees, knows all, controls everything. He permits all and all of that, right? So that's there. Now, what's within this human control is this idea of the continuity of government. So certain countries were brought into the fold, certain people have complied, there are ankle monitors. I mean, however you want to see this, people have taken deals, plea deals, they've decided to act, other people were replaced. And so this is what I mean by human control, the idea that there are bad guys under white hat submission, good guys under white hat doing a white hat role, bad guys, bad hat puppeteers and narcissists. They're all still within the idea of, and good guys even, they're within the realm of control because they have control of the internet or the communications and just all of this technology. However you want to see it, there's an idea of preventing terrorist attacks. Even though they're bad, they're still out there. There are grassroots guys. There are people that they're trying to find out as double agents and moles and all that stuff, but it's still within the realm of human control because they control the airwaves in some sense and some of the technologies. They can see it, and Q has mentioned this because people think they're smart by talking on some PlayStation like chat rooms or whatever it is, thinking they can bypass it, put Gmail in draft mode and just all these things, but they still can see it, right? Space Force, all these guys, they can still have some level of control. There are rats, there are whistleblowers, insiders, and all kinds of people. And so this is what I mean by human control. So everything, whether it's scripted or it leans more towards organic, is still within the realm of human control and still inside of God's sovereignty, because God is allowing certain people, the white hats, to take control slowly but surely over time. And this is why this whole psyop, Q, or all that is happening, right? Now, there are certain things within what I call a Satan permitted sort of zone, which is very organic, right? It's not scripted, it's not hybrid, it's very, very organic. And what I believe happened here with the Trump assassination attempt is that it wasn't that some, Antifa, backed some crazy, deep state operation had happened, in the sense of they were trying to communicate to somebody, pay somebody, give them money, have them do it, do MK Ultra or something like that. But rather, Satan himself tried to infiltrate one or two or three individuals, because again, Satan is being cornered now. He has a last ditch effort to try to take out and cause chaos, but God is not permitting this. He wants to take out Trump. He wants to take out the chosen, right? Same thing happened with Jesus when he was trying to tempt them in the desert when he was out there for 40 days. It didn't work. The same thing happened here where he was trying to do something within the limited amount of control he has. He can't communicate. He can't use standard means of communication. He can't chat to people. He can't use the banking to pay people off. He can't do these things in the normal deep state human control realm. What he did was he radicalized a few people, this one person in particular, probably, and got him to get a gun or whatever it is, went up there and in some sense even directed him. And this was permitted, right? This was permitted because, again, we've established that this assassination attempt, it was not like planned out. It wasn't staged. It seemed very, very organic. But then the question of why would the people, the white hats, even bad guys within this human control allow that to happen? Because they can't. So what Satan did was he did what he could. And this was an actual spiritual battle that we saw play out. This is an actual tactical attack that Satan was trying to do to take out Trump. And this is where we are at, in the sense of, yes, there's a lot of things that are, cute posts and stuff and movie and all that, but there's also a level of uncontrolled, organic, Satan permitted events that are still happening almost on a daily basis. And this was one of the ones where it was very clear, very, very clear that this was an attack in that spiritual realm. And so this is why we have to start praying for these kinds of things. And I know a lot of people are already praying, but if you're not, if you've wakened now, you have to get right with him and have your armor on to be equipped properly and recognize what this battle is. Because again, because a lot of us, myself included, I'm tempted to say, oh, the white hats are in control, everything's fine, and we just have to continue waking people up, and that's our journey. It's not like that. There's still things that are Satan permitted, still crazy battles for which God, he's over everything. Yes, he's given control to the white hats and to the people that are trying to do good for the world, but there's still a level of uncontrollableness that we have to factor in and be able to do whatever we can in the spirit to try to fight. God still has the victory. Good things are still going to come out of it, but there's going to be moments for which Satan, because he's frustrated, he wants to take this whole thing down. So this is where we're at. And again, just let things play out. God is working, and I want to see how things play out with the media and other people that are trying to dig up different things. So again, this is my day one reaction after the fact. And as more comes out, I'm going to try to report if I can, but also be careful because there's a lot of misinformation or things, speculation. And I don't mean to sound bad about it. It's good to try to theorize and speculate, but it'll be very tough to justify looking back in hindsight and saying that, oh, I said this, I did this, but it was wrong, in the sense of it just being a theory. And so this is what happened yesterday with certain names, certain things that came up. And after the dust was settling, you can clearly tell this was a real bullet, this is a real gun, a real person. People died, spectators died, people in the crowd died, and other things are playing out. So love you guys, be encouraged. A lot is happening, but more to come. Talk to you guys very soon.